and I will start question time now by calling Senator Smith.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Energy and Emissions Reduction, Senator Birmingham. Yesterday, the Liberal member for North Sydney, Trent Zimmerman, said, and I quote, "We have no commitment to fund a coal-fired power station, and I don't think we should. From my perspective, it's not the business of the Commonwealth Government to be building or funding coal-fired power stations." And yesterday, Liberal member for Wentworth, Dave Sharma, said on public funding of new coal-fired power generation that, and I quote, "I don't think the government should be in the position of doing this." Does the minister agree with the position of his New South Wales Liberal colleagues?
The Minister representing the Minister for Energy and Emissions Reduction, Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. Well, the government is not funding a new coal-fired power station. The government committed at the last election $10 million to address supply and affordability issues for energy-intensive and trade-exposed customers in north and central Queensland. Now, these are industries like aluminium smelting, refining, cement, sugar and copper processing, all of which rely on low-cost and reliable energy, employing tens of thousands of Queenslanders. Part of that commitment was to fund a number of feasibility studies for new generation projects to ensure that these projects stack up and make commercial sense. We won't stand in the way of private sector investment, but the investment the government is making is in relation to those feasibility studies as committed at the election.
Senator Smith, a supplementary question.
In an opinion piece to the Courier Mail, Senator Canavan said, and I quote, "The Liberal National Government is supporting the development of a coal-fired power station at Collinsville in North Queensland. Will the minister rule out this government providing taxpayers' money to fund the construction of a new coal-fired power plant?"
Senator Birmingham.
Mr President, I refer the senator to the answer I just gave the Senate, which detailed precisely what the government took to the election, and the government is doing precisely what we took to the election, no more, no less.
Order, Senator. Order on my left. Senator Smith is on her feet. I will call her when I can hear her. Order. Order across the chamber. Senator Smith.
The member for Dawson put out a media statement yesterday declaring that, and I quote, "Despite the claims of one inner-city Liberal MP on Sky News this morning, the Morrison Liberal National Government is providing funding to coal-fired power projects." Is Mr Christensen correct?
Senator Birmingham.
Mr President, once again, I think I have answered that question. If Senator Smith had listened to the initial answer or to the supplementary answer, and the government is doing precisely what we promised at the election in relation to the $10 million of funding for feasibility projects.
Senator Watt, on a point of order. Ministers.
On relevance, the minister might want to avoid it, but this question is about comments of the member for Dawson. We haven't asked about them before, so he shouldn't be referring to previous answers. We want an answer to this question.
You've restated the question. He has been speaking for 14 seconds. I am listening carefully to a specific question. I'll let the minister continue. Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. The government is delivering on our commitments for the dual feasibility projects in relation to the two projects under assessment there. And in terms of the work the government is currently pursuing, a decision that the government has currently made, that is the extent of it, and that is what we are delivering upon.
Order. 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 On my left, and Senator Hughes.
My question is to the Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business, Senator Cash. Can the minister please update the Senate on how the Morrison government is building a stronger economy and is delivering initiatives that are creating more Australian jobs?
The Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Hughes for her question. Mr President, on this side of the chamber, the government side of the chamber, we understand the government's put in place the policies that employers are able to lever off to create jobs, and that is exactly what this government has been doing since we were elected to office in 2013. What we also acknowledge and put in place, though, are processes and procedures to ensure that people who are looking for work are actually connected with local jobs where near they live. Last Friday, I was able to join the member for Lindsay, Melissa McIntosh, at a jobs fair in Penrith. As Senator Payne would know, there was much-needed rain in Penrith on Friday. But, Mr President, I'm delighted to say that despite this, over 2,400 people came along to the jobs fair. This is 2,400 people actively looking for employment, putting their hands up and saying we are ready, willing and able to undertake work. Mr President, jobs fairs are a practical way of connecting job seekers directly with not only employers who have jobs there on the day, but also with employment service providers, if you have any questions you might ask, but also it gives the job seekers the ability to ask questions face-to-face, and in particular to have their resume looked at. Do you have the most up-to-date resume? But also to undertake a practice interview. We have a number of workshops running throughout the day, and these are always well attended. Mr President, since we were elected into office, the economy itself has now created in excess of 1.5 million jobs. And in the last 2 years, we've held a number of jobs fairs around the country, and we've now had over 26,000 job seekers attending. We have a commitment to get more people off welfare and into work, and this is exactly what we are doing.
Senator Hughes, a supplementary question.
Minister, why is it important to focus on helping Australians into work?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, as a government, we understand the benefits of work. We are focused as a government on growing our economy, getting more people off welfare and into work, but also delivering well-targeted social security, funded, of course, through a strong budget. A strong economy and a strong budget, it allows you to do so many things. As I've stated, since we were elected to office, more than 1.5 million jobs have now been created. But on top of that, our strong economic management, led in particular by our treasurers, but also the Leader of the Senate, the Minister for Finance, has now seen welfare dependency hit its lowest level in 30 years. And in fact, Department of Social Service analysis shows the proportion of working-age Australians receiving welfare benefits has fallen to 13.5%. This is a decrease, Mr President, of 100,000 of working-age people in receipt of income support from
Senator
June
Cash,
2018.
time for the answers expired. Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister inform the Senate of the policy priorities of the government to continue to support jobs growth in Australia?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, again, on this side of the chamber, the government side of the chamber, we understand that you need to put in place as a government the right policy framework so that businesses can prosper, grow and create more jobs for Australians, which is exactly what businesses are doing under this government. We've put in place a number of policies that are allowing job creation, including lowering taxes. Why are we lowering taxes? So that both working Australians and small businesses are able to keep more of what is theirs. We're also focused on reducing the red tape and cutting through it via deregulation, access to finance and ensuring in particular that small businesses are getting paid on time. We're also ensuring that Australians have the skill set that employers are telling us they need. We've also expanded, and I acknowledge the work that the Minister for Trade has done, expanded our trade borders to make more markets and create more jobs. We are focused on jobs and we will continue to put in place the right
time for the answers expired. I draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the chamber and the gallery of a parliamentary delegation from Cyprus, led by Mr Dimitris Silouris, President of the House of Representatives of Cyprus. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. And with the concurrence of honourable senators, I would invite President Silouris to take a seat on the floor of the Senate. Senator Sheldon.
My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. Prime Minister Morrison has promised Australians a strong and stable government. Today, one Liberal MP has told The Australian that the Liberals' treatment of the Nationals was, and I quote, like appeasing a child who has a tantrum. This is what we have they've been doing for 4 years. The more they don't get their way, the bigger the tantrum is. How is the Prime Minister going to appease the Nationals this time?
The Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's good to see how the Australian Labor Party is asking the great questions about the future of our nation. Let me, and I know, of course, that the good senator is concerned. So let me reassure him that the Liberal National Party coalition remains strong and united and continues to deliver for the Australian people. Having taken over a government from the Labor-Green coalition that preceded us, let me tell you, we turned that disastrous situation around that we inherited from you. Under your government, weakening economy, rising unemployment, a rapidly deteriorating budget position, chaos at our borders, forcing people to pay more for their electricity in order to send higher emissions overseas. I mean, it was a complete... Your last Labor-Green period in government was a complete failure. Let me tell you, the Liberal National parties in government continue to deliver for the Australian people, continue to deliver a stronger economy with better opportunities for Australian families to get ahead and indeed keeping our borders safe and secure. Let me tell you, I put our record against your record, your Labor-Green record, any day. And you can come in here and ask juvenile
on my left and my right
politics-type questions. You know what? I actually, given that you used to be a national secretary of a great union, the Transport Workers Union, I think you should be embarrassed that you've accepted that sort of question from your tactics committee.
Senator Sheldon, a supplementary question.
Yesterday,
sorry, Senator Sheldon, I'll wait for silence. On my left and my right. Across the chamber, Senator Sheldon is on his feet. Senator Sheldon.
yesterday, former Prime Minister Turnbull told journalists in the Marble Foyer that, and I quote, "Those people who are advocating that the government should fund coal-fired power are basically making the case for higher emissions and higher energy prices, and that is nuts." Does the Prime Minister agree with the former Prime Minister Turnbull?
No. Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I thank you for the supplementary question. And I remember my time in the Turnbull cabinet when it is that we initiated the underwriting investment in new generation program, which was deliberately technology neutral. And it was actually during the Turnbull government that we thought very carefully about how we would deal with the clearly ongoing need for baseload power into the future as part of an energy mix that includes an increasing proportion of renewables. And of course, under our government, we are making record investments in renewables. We are also investing in the major battery of the nation through Snowy 2.0, but we were always focused on making sure that there was the opportunity for appropriate investment in baseload power generation that was appropriately affordable and reliable, including in coal. That was what accepting recommendations
Senator
of the
Cormann,
ICCC
time for the
report was all
answer has
about.
expired. Senator Sheldon, a final supplementary question.
Senate Deputy Nationals leader Matt Canavan tweeted yesterday that the renewables are the dole bludgers of the energy system. Does the Prime Minister agree with Senator Canavan's comments?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I've actually provided an answer on record in relation to this. I don't agree with that description. Renewable energy is a very important part of our energy mix. But in order to ensure that we can deliver affordable, reliable energy supplies, we need to ensure that we continue to make sensible decisions about the entire energy mix, which will continue to also rely substantially on Australian coal. And let me tell you, relying on Australian coal and demonstrating to the world how we are able to lower emissions through higher efficiency, lower emissions, coal-fired power station technology, that will actually help reduce emissions around the world. Because if we displace brown coal, which is more polluting, with high-quality Australian black coal into Healy plants, that is actually a good thing for the environment. And that is perhaps something that the Labor Party used to understand. And if you thought about it, you might get your head around it again.
I was going to call you on a point of order, Senator. I think the Minister's concluded his answer. Senator Watt. If it's a, you don't have the call, Senator Watt. Good try. Senator Siewert.
Thank you, Mr President.
Order. Can I hear Senator Siewert, please? Order. Senator Siewert has the call.
Thank you, Mr President. Mr President, my question is to the Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston. Minister, through you, Mr President, my question relates to the opt-out provisions of the cashless debit card. According to the Department of Social Services' latest available data, so far nobody has successfully been exited from the cashless debit card using those provisions. To date, 635 people have applied to exit the card, yet nobody has come off it. Why has nobody been exited from the card yet? Would you expect that after more than 6 months of these provisions being applicable, that more people would have been exited than none?
The Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and thank Senator Siewert for her ongoing interest in the cashless debit card and income management more generally. The issue to which Senator Siewert raises in relation to the exit provisions that have newly been put into place for people to be able to exit for a different reason than the harm that potentially could happen to people, the psychological harm for people in distress. This is a different exit mechanism for the cashless debit card. Came about through some legislation last year, and we started the process of being able to enable people to contact the Department of Social Services to seek to exit the card last year. Subsequent to having received a number of people who put forward the request to be able to exit the card, there was a number of quite complex pieces of information that were required, some of which were actually under the purview of the state and territory governments. Currently, we are undertaking the review of the request from those people who have requested to come off the card, and we will continue to work with the state and territory governments in the areas where the cashless debit card currently exists to make sure that we have fully examined all of the criteria necessary to determine whether the aspects that we require, the government requires, the legislation requires for people to exit the card have been able to have been met.
Senator Siewert, a supplementary question.
I thank the Minister for her answer, which doesn't
Order
adequately—
on my left. Senator O'Neill, I can't hear— Senator O'Neill. Senator O'Neill, I would like to hear Senator Siewert's supplementary question. Senator Siewert.
Thank you. Minister, through you, Mr President, do you acknowledge that it is too hard for people to successfully meet the highly subjective exit criteria? Do you acknowledge there is a conflict of interest in having local partners provide assistance in completing exit applications?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, and I thank Senator Siewert for her follow-up question. Let's be clear. No, the inference that possibly comes from your question is that people haven't been able to exit the card. I have not said that. What I have said is that the process under which we need to undertake the assessment, working with various stakeholder groups, working with state and territory governments, working with local providers to be able to gather the information to determine whether those criteria have been met, has been complex. So the process is ongoing. People who have made application will be assessed on a case-by-case basis, and obviously processing times are going to vary between applications. So we will continue to work with the trial sites and with the local providers so that we can make sure that when we make the assessments to determine whether people come off the card or not, in dealing with issues like the drug and alcohol-related issues, crime, violence and antisocial
Order, Senator
statistics.
Ruston. Senator Siewert, a final supplementary question.
As I said, nobody has been exited from this process yet. When does the minister expect that a decision about even one application will be made?
Senator Ruston.
Look, thank you very much, and thanks, Senator Siewert. Obviously, as I said, the complexity of this process is something that needs to be is going to take time. And when we are in a position to have been able to make the assessment, and as I said, the difficulty with working with state and territory governments, the difficulty in collating information from local community groups, the difference between each of the trial sites has made this a much more complex process than we possibly imagined in the first place. But I can assure Senator Siewert we have not refused people's exit. We are just merely going through the process of assisting and making an assessment in relation to the criteria that's in the legislation as to the validity of their exit process.
Senator Patrick.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health, Senator Cash, and concerns biosecurity measures directed against the 2019 coronavirus, which has now claimed over 1,000 lives. Can the Minister advise how many people arriving in Australia from China since the 1st of February have been the subject of biosecurity screening and advised to implement self-isolation at home? How is the government able to confirm that incoming travellers are following self-isolation protocols, and are travellers arriving from China under any legal obligation to comply with self-isolation guidances?
The Minister representing the Minister for Health, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Patrick for the question and for some prior notice. Senator Patrick, in relation to the details that I've been unable to get, I will seek to have them provided to you on notice. In terms of the latest data as at midday today, approximately 42,723 confirmed cases and 1,013 deaths have been reported globally. Of the 1,013 confirmed deaths, 1,011 have been from mainland China. Of the confirmed cases reported globally, the fatality rate is approximately 2%. The Morrison government is doing everything in our power to protect Australians from the ongoing coronavirus outbreak. We've implemented enhanced border measures at international ports, including a direction to airlines and ships that enter Australia. Foreign nationals who have been in mainland China since 1 February inclusive will not be allowed to enter Australia. As a result, the overall total of arrivals since the 1st of February from mainland China is approximately 28,500. I'm advised that this represents a very substantial decrease in numbers arriving from mainland China. I'm also advised that this has not resulted in any significant increase through key transit points such as KL or Bangkok, indicating that the restrictions are proving effective. All arrivals undertake appropriate screening and are provided with information on the virus and what to do if symptoms present. These border measures are effective, and since the 1st of February, 145 China to Australia flights were cancelled. 30 arriving passengers had their visas cancelled. Of these, 19 visas have been reissued, resulting in a total of 11 visa cancellations. 234 passengers were refused permission to board their flight to Australia. 84 passengers in Australia have been refused permission to board their departing vessel. And I'll take on notice any further details for you.
Senator Patrick, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Have any biosecurity control orders been imposed in relation to confirmed or suspected cases of coronavirus in Australia, and if so, how many? And in what general circumstances would the government consider imposition of human biosecurity control orders to be appropriate?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. I'm advised that on the 21st of January 2020, human coronavirus with pandemic potential was listed as a listed human disease under the Biosecurity Act 2015, enabling the use of enhanced border measures. All states and territories have powers to issue orders under public health legislation that include provision for detaining persons and enforcement of those orders in relation to notifiable conditions. Authorised public health officers may issue directions to an individual, but generally chief health officers must authorise orders for detention. All states and territories have emergency powers, which provides extensive authority to control a public health emergency, including the power to detain individuals. In such cases, the emergency direction must be authorised by the Chief Health Officer or, in some cases, the Minister. However, once declared, authorised emergency officers may have delegated powers and the agency to detain individuals. The Commonwealth can issue directions during a human biosecurity emergency under the Biosecurity Act.
Order. Senator Cash, time for the answer has expired. Senator Patrick, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Will the government undertake to promptly publish general details, being the numbers and broad locations of any human biosecurity control orders imposed in relation to the coronavirus? And will the government undertake to provide an update, a weekly update to the chamber on its measures in relation to the coronavirus?
Senator Cash.
Well, thank you. And I believe that Minister Hunt has already done his first press conference for the day in relation to this issue, and we are obviously providing regular updates both to the Parliament, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and to the Australian people. Information is being shared through the Australian Health Protection Principle Committee and other relevant forums. Importantly, the National Incident Room is working with all states and territories to facilitate contact tracing of any individuals identified as being at risk of exposure to the virus on incoming flights. This includes contacting individuals in close contact with any confirmed cases and providing other passengers with advice on what to do if they begin feeling unwell. We are meeting all requests of state and territory governments as promptly as we can, and as you would understand, this is an evolving situation and we will continue to follow the expert medical advice.
Senator Farrell.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Youth and Sport, Senator Colbeck. Yesterday, I asked the Minister about the Prime Minister's media release dated the 30th of March 2019, which stated, and I quote, "Further details on the Change Room and Swimming Facilities Fund will be released later in 2019. I asked the Minister again, were these further details ever released?
The Minister for Youth and Sport, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thanks, Senator Farrell, for the question. I haven't seen any further details of that particular program being released.
Order.
After the election, Mr President, after the election, the government made a decision to allocate projects, 41 projects, as we discussed in the chamber yesterday, to that particular program for administration. And the administration of that program was moved from the Department of Infrastructure under the stewardship of the Deputy Prime Minister to my portfolio. Since the program has been in my portfolio, there have been no further information released in respect to the program, because at this point in time the responsibility that I have, along with my department, is to administer the delivery of those election commitments that are now a part of the female facilities and water program. That's the FFW safety stream program, Mr President. And so the election intervened in that process. The allocation of the grants or the election promises was made to that program, and they now rest with my portfolio for administration and delivery.
Senator Farrell, supplementary question.
I do thank you, Mr President. Yesterday the Minister refused to advise the Senate whether his agencies had expressed concerns that no guidelines or further details were ever distributed, despite the Prime Minister stating that they would be. I ask again, can the Minister assure the Senate no concerns were raised with him or his office about the failure to distribute further details or guidelines?
Senator Colbeck.
Mr President, as I indicated yesterday, all of these projects were election commitments. We made a number of election commitments for sporting projects.
Order. Senator Wong, on a point of order.
I know that the minister is simply repeating the script that the Leader of the Government has given him in the chamber, but my point of order is direct relevance. We did not ask about guidelines. We did not ask about election commitments. We asked about an answer the Minister gave previously in relation to advice from agencies. And I would ask you to ask him to return to that question.
The Minister has been speaking for 8 seconds. I appreciate it was a specific question that related to advice received or not received, and the Minister needs to address that particular question. He has only been speaking for 8 seconds, so I'm going to grant him a couple of sentences at the very least before I make a judgment on direct relevance. Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. As I was saying, all of the projects that are being administered under this program were election promises. And as I indicated to the chamber yesterday, because the delivery of these projects is very similar to the way that CDG projects are rolled out. The department has decided, expressed no concern to me, Senator Farrell, to use the guidelines for the delivery of CDG projects for the delivery of this program. So, Mr President, no concern from my department to me around how this program might be delivered. The government made a decision that the Department of Health would deliver these programs rather than the Department of Infrastructure, and the Department of Health is utilising.
Senator Colbeck, time for the answer has expired. Senator Farrell, a final supplementary question.
I do have a further supplementary question, Mr President. Yesterday I asked the minister to explain why $150 million of taxpayers' money is being allocated without any guidelines. I again asked the minister, why was the $150 million of taxpayers' money allocated without any guidelines?
Senator Colbeck.
Mr President, as I've said a number of times already, the projects being delivered through this program were election commitments. It's that simple. The opposition delivered $250 million worth of election promises. $250 million worth of election promises, Mr President, with a line in their election policy document to increase that to $400 million, Mr President. Where are the guidelines? Where are the guidelines for the Labor Party's election commitments, Mr President? Where are the guidelines for the Labor Party's election commitments? This government made a number of election commitments, 41 of them, in fact, that are being delivered through this program. The Labor Party made $250 million worth of election commitments, no guidelines, no process. They just made their $250 million worth of election commitments. They would have had a program to deliver it just the same way the government does.
Senator Colbeck. Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston. Can the minister update the Senate on how the Morrison government's plan to provide pathways from welfare to work is building a stronger economy and creating more Australian jobs?
Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the senator for his question and his ongoing and enduring interest in our social welfare system. I'm very pleased to be able to update the Senate on the government's progress in building a stronger economy and creating more jobs. And we have absolutely focused on the economy, because getting more people into work and delivering a well-targeted and sustainable social welfare system funded through a strong budget is the only way that we can continue to grow our economy and provide jobs for the people who need them. And as my colleague mentioned earlier, and in conjunction with the work that I do with Senator Cash as the Minister for Employment, working hand in glove to identify the barriers for people to actually get into employment at the same time as creating jobs, to make sure that when we break those barriers down, the jobs are there. And as Senator Cash mentioned, we have just announced to the 30th of June 2019 that the number of working-age Australians, or the proportion of working-age Australians who are dependent on welfare, has fallen to 13.5%. That is the lowest level of dependency for over 30 years. 30 years. And when you combine that with the job creation programs of this government that are creating jobs so that when people find themselves in a position to move into employment, the jobs are there, we actually have got a formula that means that more Australians are in work. So as more people are finding employment, we are seeing a corresponding fall in the number of working-age Australians on welfare. And since 2013, 1.5 million jobs. I mean, those opposite can sit there and scoff and they can interject, but 1.5 million jobs created for Australians so that they can get into work. So as we sit here today, we continue to understand that there are people with barriers that to get into work, and we're working on innovative programs such as the Try, Test and Learn program so that we can identify the unique reasons why sometimes people find it more difficult to get into work.
Senator Ruston. Senator O'Sullivan, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Why is it important to reduce welfare dependence and promote self-sufficiency and resilience? And how does welfare dependency at present compare to previous terms of government?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Senator Sullivan. The underlying objective of our welfare system is to support Australians who find themselves in a position where they're not able to support themselves. And by moving people from welfare to work, obviously strengthens our communities, it strengthens our economy, but it also is an extraordinary benefit and value to the person themselves when they get a job. Every person who's on welfare who gets a job is a victory for this system. But it's also imperative that the long-term sustainability of this system is protected, because that protects our community at large and ensures that there will be a system in place for them and for our families and our children. In June 2019, there were 2.2 million Australians of working age receiving income support. This is a decrease of 100,000 people from June 2018. Over the same period of time, the working age Australian population aged 16 to 65 also
Senator
increased.
Ruston. Senator O'Sullivan, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister update the Senate on how a sustainable welfare system supports Australian families and retirees?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. As those in this place would probably know, and if they don't, they should, 1/3 of the Australian government's budget is targeted to our sustainable but targeted welfare system. And this includes payments to a range of people. They include $48 billion that go on, is spent to support our older Australians with the age pension, $18 billion on family tax benefit, $9 billion for carers, amongst others. Social services touches almost all Australians at some stage during their lives, and it is a safety net to make sure that we provide for those that are most vulnerable when they are vulnerable. And it's particularly important that this system remains sustainable, because we need to make sure that this system is in place not just for Australians today, but for Australians into the future. And I'm sure those officers would like to think that this system would be sustainable should their children or their grandchildren ever need the safety net that is applied and provided by this system.
Order, Senator Ruston. Time for the answers expired. Senator Lambie.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister Reynolds. Minister, my question refers to the announcement of 10 new case coordinators for the Department of Veterans Affairs Coordinator Client Support Program. The government's made quite a point of saying the case coordinator roles is about providing at-risk veterans a single point of contact to work with throughout all the complexity of the Department of Veterans Affairs. There's definitely value in having one person you can actually trust to work with who helps you throughout your transition into civilian life. But you don't want your single point of contact leaving just before they're on a short-term contract and they're not renewed. Will you commit to making sure that none of these case coordinators are external contractors?
The Minister representing the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Lambie for her question on this announcement. And I also thank you, Senator Lambie, through you, Mr President, for your ongoing advocacy and support for so many of our veterans. So I thank you for that. In relation to the announcement of the additional caseworkers, I can confirm that, well, one is that we are doing this, and the reason that we're doing this for is veterans under the age of 30, as you well know, who are involuntary discharge are at a higher risk of suicide than the general population, which is why we're investing the $4.8 million that you referenced to ensure that young and vulnerable veterans who leave the ADF will be provided a single point of contact with 10 additional case coordinators, and also the coordination client support, which is already helping well over 1,000 veterans. In relation to who will be used, Senator Lambie, I will have to take that on notice, and I'll endeavour to get back to you straight away.
Senator Lambie, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. The average length of time a veteran stays in the Coordinated Client Support Program is about 275 days. What guarantee can you give to veterans who are going to have to deal with more than one case coordinator simply because the government thought that's the cheapest way to do it?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Lambie. And I just have to take issue with your last comment, and I don't in any way agree with your characterisation. And I'll take that specific notice on question as well to get you the right information.
Senator Lambie, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. You'd think the easiest way to make sure veterans have one single point of contact across their time in the program would be to have their case coordinator to be on staff as a permanent employee. So why have you created this revolving door of bureaucrats on tap by cutting DVA's APS staff by 15% in the last 4 years?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr President. And again, I thank Senator Lambie. Senator Lambie, in relation to that last question, again I reject the premise of your question, but I will take that also on notice. But I would also extend through you, Mr President, the opportunity for a meeting with Minister Chester to actually discuss your concerns in relation to who those people will be.
Senator Kitching.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds. I refer to the party political advertisement published on the Prime Minister's social media channels at the height of the bushfire crisis that was authorised by, and I quote, S. Morrison, Liberal Party, Canberra. Did the minister authorise the use of video footage containing Australian defence personnel and assets in the Liberal Party's party political advertisement?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and thank you very much, Senator Kitching, for the question. The answer is very simple, that was the legislative requirement to go on that ad.
Order. Order. Senator Reynolds, have you concluded your answer? There is an opportunity to debate questions. Senator Kitching has an opportunity for supplementary questions. Senator Kitching.
Who authorised the use of video footage which contained Australian defence personnel and assets in the Liberal Party's political advertising? When was that authorisation granted?
Senator Reynolds.
Senator Kitching, thank you very much, Mr President. Thank you, Senator Kitching. In relation to that question, I'll have to go back and have a look to exactly which photos you're referring to, because as Senator Kitching would be well aware, there's a gallery of photos available on the website for people to download and use. So I don't mislead the Senate. I'll go and seek some further information on that, and I'll get back to you.
Senator Kitching, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. The Australia Defence Association Executive Director Neil James has said that the ad was plain wrong and broke long-standing conventions on the use of the Australian Defence Force in advertising. How do you respond to Mr James?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you. And again, I'll just point out that what else he has also said about the Australian Defence Force contribution to the bushfires. So that has been an amazing—
Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Point of order is direct relevance. We all support what the ADF has been doing. That is not the question. So I would ask the minister not to cloak herself in the ADF's courage in these circumstances. We are asking this minister how she responds to Mr James's criticism of the political use of these images.
On the point of order, the question was specifically about comments regarding an advertisement and the role of the ADF, and the minister, to be directly relevant, must relate to those elements of the question. Senator Reynolds.
What I would remind those opposite is that it wasn't a ministerial, or it wasn't a prime ministerial, as I understand the piece that you're referring to. It was required to be authorised, and it was authorised. It was not a piece of material from myself as the minister. So I will take that on notice, but I'll take it on notice.
Senator McGrath.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Senator Birmingham. Can the minister outline how the Morrison government's $76 million bushfire recovery package is helping to support affected communities?
The Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. I thank Senator McGrath for his question. A passionate Queenslander with, of course, a passionate interest in the tourism industry, and I thank Senator McGrath in particular for the many representations and feedback that he's been providing to me in terms of the impact, especially of coronavirus, but also of reputational impact in relation to bushfires on Queensland tourism businesses, as have so many coalition members. Mr President, the government, as is well known, has applied a $76 million step-up in terms of tourism funding. Many have commented that this is, so far as they're aware, the single largest additional investment made in Australian tourism by an Australian government in terms of support for recovery during this time. In implementing this package, the government is seeking to activate increased domestic tourism through a $20 million campaign, and we are particularly working to help states and territories who will receive the bulk of that $20 million funding. Matching money is on the table for those states and territories, so they step up and put in extra money, we put extra money. We will also today release guidelines for the Regional Grants Program. The Regional Grants Program is a $10 million component of the $76 million package, specific for fire-affected communities. Those communities are in a position to be able to invest in regional events, in other promotional activities, and quickly secure grants under this program to be able to lift and boost visitation, especially during non-peak periods. And those non-peak periods are important to make sure that we lift and make up for the lost visitation that has occurred and is occurring, Mr President. We note that the ongoing impact of the coronavirus has had a continual slowdown impact on many regions across Australia, including some of those fire-affected regions. That's why it's important we get the investment of this funding absolutely right.
Order. Senator McGrath, a supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the minister advise the Senate on what steps the government has already taken so far to assist the tourism sector in response to the challenge of both bushfires and coronavirus?
Senator Birmingham.
Mr President, as I indicated, the $20 million funding, the bulk of that is available for the states and territories. I welcome those states that have made the decision to put in matching funding. I welcome those states that have put in matching funding, which of course helps to nearly double the commitment that is there in terms of the partnerships that exist. Welcome the fact that companies such as Qantas, Virgin, Jetstar, AAT Kings and Ridges have all come on board and are partnering with Tourism Australia in seeking to drive sales and products to help lift travel across Australia. I note the fact that the Holiday Here This Year campaign is featured on cover wraps across 24 Australian newspapers, 376 advertising panels, 53 airport screens, advertisements in over 600 office towers, broadcast on radio nearly 3,000 times, and a bonus of 12,500 free charge spots. And I thank many Australian media outlets for providing free or discounted space to be able to help us get campaign reach further and drive taxpayer dollars further in our support for tourism businesses.
Senator McGrath, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the minister inform the Senate how the government's tourism package is being responded to in market?
Senator Birmingham.
Mr President, it is early days still, and we know that in terms of recovery in those international markets, we see globally downward trend in terms of international travel. This is not a problem just affecting Australia, it's affecting visitation and travel right around the world as a result of coronavirus. I heard interjections before from those opposite, and certainly when I was on the south coast of New South Wales the week before last, talking to tourism providers there, I know they are hurting. They are hurting intensely. And let me make it very clear, Mr President, they're hurting for a range of reasons that some of those opposites seem to ignore. The fact that still getting road access from Victoria up into some of those south coast communities has been an ongoing work is a real problem. We have been offering additional resources to the Victorian government to get those roads open. And frankly, those opposite ought to deal in the reality of the challenges that are there.
Order. Senator Birmingham, time for the answers expired. Senator Ayres.
Mr President, my question is to the Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston. Yesterday the minister told the Senate that, and I quote, "I think you will find that the majority of Australians impacted by these bushfires have been very happy and grateful for the response by this government." Megalong Valley resident Glenn Delane has been told she's not eligible for bushfire recovery assistance despite her smoke-stained home. After facing drought and bushfires, she's now in a perilous financial position. Is the minister really saying that Ms Lane should feel happy and grateful for the assistance that she's received?
The Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and thank you, Senator Ayres, for your question. I think if you actually listened to what I said yesterday, I said that the majority of Australians are very happy with the response that has happened, not just by the federal government but by state governments as well, in relation to these unprecedented disasters that have occurred. In relation to the specific example that you have raised, as I said yesterday in response to a question very similar to the one that you've just raised, if you have a particular individual who is experiencing particular difficulty, we are more than happy on a case-by-case basis to actually look at the circumstances around that particular case to see whether they are able to be supported. And I think, I'll take Senator Watt's interjection. I think the Australian public in general, particularly those that have been affected by bushfires, have actually been very, very grateful for the response that they've received across the board, from state governments, from across the many states that have been impacted by bushfires. The response, I have to say, seeing the military walk off the aircraft on Kangaroo Island, I've got to tell you, the Australian government response by the ADF, and I thank Senator Reynolds for the response post that she put into place, watching the faces of people on Kangaroo Island who'd lost their houses, lost their farms, lost their livestock. When those boots got on the ground on Kangaroo Island, they were very, very grateful. So I can assure you that my statement to the House yesterday, to the chamber yesterday, was absolutely accurate. I do believe the majority of Australians who have been impacted have been grateful for the response they've received across the board. However, there will be individual circumstances, possibly like the one that Senator Ayres raised in his question, that we would be more than happy to take on and have a look at on a particular case-by-case basis, so that we can have a look through the recovery process, both state and federal, to see whether there are other things that are available to the constituent to which you refer.
Senator Ayres, a supplementary question.
A month after losing his home in the bushfires, Waitalabar Rural Fire Service firefighter Joe Borgia had only received a disaster recovery payment, was still waiting for other funding approvals and was forced to accept donations from neighbours just to keep going. Is the best advice this minister has for Mr Borgia really just to be happy and grateful?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Senator Ayres, I mean, you do a disservice to this place and yourself by making a comment like that. The reality of this is an unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented disaster.
On my left.
And there have been hundreds of thousands of Australians who have been out there working on the fire front, our firefighters, our emergency service workers, our defence forces out there helping Australia.
Order. Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Point of order, direct relevance. Could this minister not hide behind the goodness and courage of other Australians and respond to her happy and grateful lecturing of Australians in this chamber?
Senator Wong, that is not a point of order. Senator Cormann.
That was my point. I think, and I would like you to reflect on this. I think that on many occasions now, instead of raising a point of order, Senator Wong raises debating points. That is obviously disorderly. And I think she should be called to order much quicker.
I'll take that submission. I was attempting to call Senator Wong to order. On the point of order, questions that are highly politically charged, the minister is entitled to address them in a manner that the minister sees fit. It is not appropriate to call a point of order for an answer someone doesn't like when there has been a politically charged question. Senator Ruston to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I've just give me the opportunity to update the Senate on some of the activities that have actually been undertaken as part of the bushfire recovery. Over $121 million has been paid to families and individuals. Over $155 million has been paid to 88,900 eligible individuals in disaster recovery payments and allowances. We've paid $5.2 million have been paid to 1,500 volunteer firefighters. And almost $300,000 has been paid to the 23 applicants under the expansion of the Community Childcare Fund.
Senator Ruston, time for the answers expired. Senator Ayres, a final supplementary question.
Members and senators are hearing from countless Australians in areas devastated by bushfires, frustrated about inflexible government bureaucracy and severe delays in receiving assistance. Why is the best this minister can say to Australians struggling in the aftermath of the bushfire crisis simply to be happy and grateful?
Senator Ruston.
Well, I'll just take the premise of the comment that's just made there. I did not say yesterday that Australians should be happy or should be grateful. I've said the feedback that I received on the ground for the majority of people that I have encountered since I've been out on the bushfire firegrounds has been that they are grateful for the response that they've received from the federal government and the state government and their communities, their local governments. So I think to come in here and seek to misrepresent me is not doing you any service. However, what I would say, Senator Ayres, is that—
Order. I'd like to hear the minister's answer.
What I would say, Senator Ayres, has been that the response to these unprecedented fires has been unprecedented in itself. The first time that the military has been called out in the kind of degree that it has. This is the first time the federal government has had to stand up a national bushfire recovery agency, and there have been an absolute myriad of programs put in place, including the $2 billion made available by our good economic management.
Senator McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr President. This is not my first speech. My question is to the Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds. Can the minister update the Senate on how the Australian Defence Force is working with its partners to support maritime security in the Middle East?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds. Order, Senator Sterle.
Thank you very much, Mr
Order,
President,
Senator
and I
Sterle.
thank the senator for his first question. On the 13th of January, I farewelled HMAS Toowoomba and her crew of 190 personnel on a six-month deployment to the Middle East under Operation Manitou. And I am very happy to report to the Senate that they are already doing our nation proud. Manitou is Australia's longest-standing commitment to maritime security and stability in the Middle East, and this is not a new mission. HMAS Toowoomba is in fact the 68th Royal Australian Naval deployment to the region since 1990. HMAS Toowoomba commenced operation on the 31st of January and has already conducted a transit of the Straits of Hormuz with the United Kingdom's Royal Navy HMS Defender. But throughout her deployment, she will be dual assigned. She is also supporting the Combined Maritime Forces, which is a 33-nation partnership which is targeting terrorism, piracy, drug smuggling in the Middle East region and also on the north-east coast of Africa. She is also supporting, as I've said, the International Maritime Security Construct, a broad international effort designed to protect freedom of navigation and support the safe passage of commercial shipping and maritime trade in the region. Australia joined the IMSC in mid-2019, following a series of security incidents against the shipping in the Straits of Hormuz. And under the IMSC, HMAS Toowoomba is working with international partners to secure trade and energy flows throughout the Middle East region by ensuring the safe passage of commercial and also civilian vessels. When operating in support of the IMSC, Toowoomba will coordinate with a complementary European-led maritime surveillance mission in the Straits of Hormuz.
Senator McLaughlin, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister provide an update on how Australia's support to the Combined Maritime Forces helps to counter terrorism and narcotics in the Middle East?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Again, I thank the senator for his question. While supporting the Combined Maritime Forces, HMAS Toowoomba will assist with the interdiction of illegal activities that fund terrorism. This includes the movement of personnel, weapons or income-generating narcotics and also charcoal. Since 2014, the Royal Australian Navy has seized in excess of 9.6 tonnes of heroin, 58 tonnes of hashish, 15 kilograms of methamphetamines and also 35 kilos of amphetamines, with an estimated combined street value in excess of $6.2 billion, as well as approximately 2,200 illegal weapons, with over nearly 500,000 rounds of ammunition and more than 12 tonnes of precursor chemicals required to manufacture explosives. Through these efforts, Australia has helped deny terrorist organisations crucial weapons and also revenue.
Senator McLaughlin, a final supplementary question.
Can the minister explain to the Senate how Australia's contribution to the International Maritime Security Construct supports Australia's economic and security interests?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr President. Maintaining vital trade and energy flows through key choke points like the Straits of Hormuz is crucial to the global trading system and also the international economy and also Australia's prosperity. Around 40% of fuel used in Australia transits through the Straits of Hormuz and is either refined here or overseas. The international maritime security construct seeks to provide freedom of navigation through these shipping lanes, which reach directly into the Indo-Pacific region and well beyond. Under the IMSC, HMAS Toowoomba will work with international partners to monitor and deter destabilising activities which could disrupt trade and also vital energy flows. She will also support the safe passage of commercial and civilian shipping in the region.
Senator Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. When was the last time the minister tabled a report by the Secretary of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet relating to ministerial standards that had been considered by the Governance Committee of Cabinet?
Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. We don't table those reports in relation to— I mean, the Governance Committee of the Cabinet considers these reports in relation to serving ministers, well, she was a serving minister at the time, and that, of course, obviously, the deliberative process of the Governance Committee led to the outcome that is now well known. I suspect that you might want to refer to two former ministers who had long left the Parliament, and that is not the same process.
Senator Gallagher, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Given that on the 22nd of July 2019 the minister tabled a report of the Governance Committee of Cabinet by then Secretary of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet Dr Martin Parkinson relating to ministerial standards, what is the real reason he will not release the report by the Prime Minister's former Chief of Staff, now Secretary of his department, into the breach of ministerial standards by former Minister Senator Mackenzie?
Senator Cormann.
I don't accept the premise of the question, but in order to ensure the bit relating to the Governance Committee of Cabinet, I will clarify the facts, and I will get back to the chamber on notice.
Senator Gallagher, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. Given the clear precedent for releasing such reports, why won't the minister come clean with the Senate and the people of Australia that the only reason he won't release the Gaetjens report is that it shows that disgraced former Minister Mackenzie has been left to take the blame for a program that involved the Prime Minister, his office and senior members of his cabinet?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. There is no clear precedent in the form that Senator Gallagher is outlining. The clear precedent under governments of both political persuasions, and I can provide the chamber with a long list of quotes from Prime Minister Gillard, former Prime Minister Gillard down, in the last period Labor government, when the precise same claim of public interest immunity in relation to documents prepared for the consideration of Cabinet or a Cabinet subcommittee and which informed the deliberation of Cabinet were exempt from public release. I mean, there are well-established conventions in relation to this for good reasons, and our government, in the same way as previous Labor and coalition governments, is absolutely acting consistent with those conventions.
Senator Cormann.
And with those few words, I ask that further questions be placed in a notice paper.